I think about the sports teams sprinkled about Boise and their respective representative mascots. You got Humphrey the Hawk, maybe came to mind, possibly. He's the mascot of the Boise Hawks, the baseball team. Buster Bronco, the furry face of the Boise State Broncos. Are you familiar with Tucker, the mascot of the Idaho Horsemen, which you might think would be a cowboy, not a horse, but it's a horse. And of course, hockey fans know Blue the Bear, the mascot of who else but the Idaho Steelheads. Look, I didn't say they all made sense, but they are all caricatures of creatures you can find in Idaho. But back in the day, there was one animal that represented the city of trees, a flightless bird that drew flocks of visitors. Not because he was cute and cuddly, though, which may have been part of his pizzazz.
Fighting Bob's sort of a, what I want to say, historical part of Boise's early history.
Just off Warm Springs Avenue in East Boise.
There used to be a very grand building called the Natatorium, a big ornate indoor pool, and next door was an amusement park.
It was known as White City Park, named after the Columbian Exposition at the Chicago World's Fair in 1893, where a majority of the buildings were painted white.
It was just an outdoor space with games and live entertainment and some animal attractions,
including 2 ostriches.
Their names were Fighting Bob and Desdemona.
Because of his behavior, he got the nickname Fighting Bob. And that was apparently named after a boxer, a real famous boxer at that time that was known as Bob Fitzsimmons.
He was really feisty with visitors and with his partner Desdemona. He had a reputation for snapping at fingers, sneaking up on visitors and trying to take a bite or a kick out of them. The intent was for these 2 ostriches to mate and produce a lot of eggs. They never did. Instead, they fought.
And Desdemona ultimately died. Bob's mayhem didn't stop there.
Later on, at some point, Bob got out of his cage, got into the Boise River.
It sounds like a group of boys, teenagers, broke Bob out of his pen and attempted to ride him across the Boise River. I don't know how far they got or how they were caught, but it sounds like he went on an escapade around the city.
Despite his escape, Bob went back to White City, where he'd live for another 16 years.
Part of the attraction, not only is he's a big exotic bird, but people like to do things like feed him the butts of cigars or golf balls or give him tobacco and ice cream, all these certain things that you don't want to give to an ostrich normally. That was part of the attraction.
Fighting Bob died in 1927.
He was such a popular attraction that his owners wanted, I think, to maintain his popularity, and they had him taxidermied.
Nearly 100 years after his death, Fighting Bob now lives in Caldwell at the Orma Smith Museum of Natural History on the campus of the College of Idaho. But his story does not stop there.
We knew about Fighting Bob as a historic figure in our town and thought about reimagining him going on adventures throughout Boise. So the idea originated in 2017. Our department for some time has been looking for ways to engage youth and families and educators, and things like children's books are really incredible ways to do that.
So Fighting Bob became a series of children's books, written and illustrated by Caitlin Hocklander.
And really, in many ways, it was her idea, and we let her fly. Even though ostriches don't fly.
In them, historical photos mixed with stories about Fighting Bob's big adventures around Boise.
So Fighting Bob moves to Boise. He goes to the Boise Fire Department. He goes to the Boise pools. He goes to the airport. The depot, the Boise Depot. So we hope that by sharing some of Boise's unique municipal stories, that people can learn more about their hometown.
That's a cool way to learn about history, but no word yet on where Bob is going to go next in his stories. But you can check out the books at the Boise Public Library, and if you're interested in visiting the actual Fighting Bob, the stuffed one, by the way, Orma J. Smith Museum of Natural History on the C of I campus, that is open to the public.